Hi, Adam Bierman again, Breezin with Bierman. We're here with Chuck Treece. He's a session musician and professional skateboarder from Philadelphia, PA. In 1984, he became famous for being the first African-American skateboarder to be featured on the cover of Thrasher magazine. His musical credits include the 1980 skateboard punk band McRad, remixing songs for Amy Grant, very diverse, Sting. He played bass line on The River of Dreams with Billy Joel. He was on drums during a Pearl Jam concert. He's also touring with Urge Overkill, Bad Brains, and now with Activate. Again, Loren Lepre is part someone who you're too big for the stage, but you're here. And I'm glad
I
you're
am,
here.
but I'm trying to bring in some ratings and have some fun. And I say time and time again, I believe in Adam, and I wouldn't have people I wouldn't tell Chuck, I wouldn't put him at gunpoint the other night and say you have to do your show if I didn't believe in it.
Right,
So.
but you're running down from Philly and running back up. I feel like I'm being nice, and I feel like I have to support you. And I want to go over and clean your toilet.
You should. You never have ice cream when I'm here.
I know. Whatever you are, I know. But hopefully you're all benefiting. But it's more about you.
Yes.
You know.
So Chuck, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming. You also forgot to plug that Chuck is in my movie, Pennsylvania Hardcore.
Yes, I am.
Yes.
I didn't see that in your face.
Yes, look at that.
I missed that.
It's all right. I wanted to make him look
I'm
bad.
more dark military mode.
That's right.
Okay.
I've been sharing that one and everything. So hit me.
I got you.
Already flushed me. Hit me. Punch me. Anyway.
All right. So Chuck, welcome to the show. And you have got one. God, I wish I could kind of clone your life because you've been around skateboarding and music for so long.
Yeah.
So
the Forrest Gump of hardcore.
It might be. Yes. So what drew it to you? What came first, skating or punk and skating?
Well, skateboarding started at age 11.
Okay.
And I lived in Wilmington, Delaware, and I would go back and forth from Wilmington to Philly to kind of exercise music and have fun as a kid. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, a skateboard showed up with metal wheels and small trucks and a wood board, no grip tape, really primitive skateboarding. And I was living in a predominantly black neighborhood in Wilmington, and all the kids, my friends, were better than me. They could do handstands, roll down the hill, but they weren't attached to the lifestyle. So for some reason, I connected to the lifestyle. I don't know why. It took me longer to learn. So I would literally hold on to something and learn how to tic-tac. And then it just became kind of like exercising because I was really into baseball. So baseball is like a process of playing it. And skateboarding is the same thing. It's like different levels of mind control, that you use. So you don't do stuff like bash your knee open.
Legit.
That's your battle score. That's your medal.
Yeah, it's one of them.
Well, when you say that, sorry, the lifestyle though, if you could just give a brief cultural primer, how would you stereotype the lifestyle of a skateboarder? More iconoclast, kind of doing your own thing, not organized sports?
Because the lifestyle with aggression added to it would be like the attitude and kind of like what happened after the hippies or people that don't surf can't be just like, surfing is a little bit more mellow, you know what I mean? So it's more kind of like you're centered around the beach. And skating to me was like the transportation to that. So if you're living in a place like Wilmington, there's no beach unless you go to Dover or Rehoboth, you know what I mean? So you have to have a car, you got to get all the way there, you got to get into the lifestyle.
Right.
So for some reason, the inner city kids were more into like their gear, sneakers. What's happening in skateboarding now? Which is like it's like more urban, and it's making more sense because it's easier to buy a skateboard and live the lifestyle on the street, which that wasn't street skating wasn't big back then because metal wheels on that stuff is horrible. But now someone can buy a longboard and be like, I'm a skateboarder. I can go 5, 10, 20 miles. You know what I mean? So back then it was just the terrain was smaller. Now the terrain is big because you have all these different skateboards you can buy and you have all this terrain you can ride. You can be a park skater, or you could just be a street skater, or you could just cruise down hills, or you can just kind of just goofing around with your friends. You know what I mean? But when we started this, I never knew that there was a scene in California. I just saw this thing called a skateboard and I just stepped on it and I connected with it.
And over the course of time, you ended up, you're a professional skateboarder.
Yes.
Thrasher magazine.
Yeah.
How does that even kind of happen? Because is there really a field? Is that, at the West Coast you had like the Z Boys setting it off, but like, did someone come to you and be like, you can make money out of this now? Like, we got magazines, and we just like, really? This was something I'm doing, screwing around? Like, how did that even happen? Was it obviously the early 80s, the late 70s?
Well, like after when I started at age 11, and by age 13, I had my first skateboard. So at that point, I was just kind of into like, well, skateboarding's fun. I'm in the suburbs of, Delaware. I'm having a good time because my father moved me from the city out into the burbs. So I got a chance to get into that. And then once skateboarding was huge, Tony Alva, it appeared in Charlie's Angels, all the different things, movies. And then all of a sudden skateboarding tanked. Vans went, filed for Chapter 11, and then all the skateboard parks closed because of, either real estate or insurance. I'm not trying to big up people who have all this power, but we were not lobbying as a unified group of people to say we need public skate parks. So all the skate parks were like, you had to pay.
Were you part of the people leading the way for FDR Park?
Yeah, one of the main people was we actually a unit of us in Philly when I moved to Philadelphia from 1982. We went to City Hall to say, hey, we need a public skate park. And so I lived in West Philly, and they were like, hey, that ice skating rink that's there? And I was like, the lady, she had to lobby for 10 to 15 years to get that built. So if you're serious about your cause, and this is after I'd already been sponsored, I'd already went out and kind of made a little bit of a name for myself.
You're more legitimate.
Yeah, a little more legit. And then I had to figure out, wow, I have to lobby for people's attention. And so we started lobbying in 1983, and then FDR got built in 94, 95. So that's a long quest of just like skating backyard ramps. And, I would have to drive all the way to North Brunswick, New Jersey to skate my friend's backyard ramp, Tom Groholski. So
it was, what was it, about 2005 or 2006 is when Philadelphia banned skating altogether?
Well, I think
they didn't want you in Love Park.
Yeah, they didn't want people in Love Park, and they were giving people tickets, and they were like, they were able to like kind of like take your board and trash your board.
Jeez.
And so there was a lot of different things, and I kind of made a verbal kind of like push towards Nutter and called him Nutsack, because I thought that it was unrealistic that me as a kid I only have a high school education, but skateboarding was able to give me a sense of traveling and able to give me a sense of self, and being this musician, black dude that ends up in the suburbs from the city, all I had was my skateboard.
Right.
So if you take away someone's identity and they want to be an athlete, it's horrible. It's like, because then you have all this angst, and then what are kids going to go to if they can't skate what they want? They're going to start getting in trouble.
Yep.
And that's what happens every time.
Yeah.
That was the knock, though, I saw before. I know around town, in Hopewell and communities in Mercer County, people had this almost zero-sum feeling. Skateboarding, it's kind of long-haired kids smoking pot and other wrong element.
Yeah.
But no one stopped to think maybe it's just a good outlet, just another way of doing something.
It's amazing, and not that everybody should skate, even if you only skated for 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, the lifestyle is like how athletic are you? When you want to be, and then you can meet a bunch of great people, because skaters at that point were just like kind of like artists. You know what I mean? It's like,
it's a big community.
Yeah, you do that. Oh, you're cool. Now everyone skateboards. It's like hard to figure out. Well, you got to hang with the street skaters, or you got to hang with these guys, or these guys wear these sneakers, or these are the skaters that wear $200 sneakers and collect. It's just out of control.
It's the same, but it's just like skating or the hardcore scene. You can kind of tell in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Like 2 seconds. I see right through.
I see right through. Yeah.
And so, are you a skater?
I used to be. I still own my first edition Tony Hawk board.
Oh, sick.
Weighs a ton, but I just skated to get around. I was too scared to do what this guy did.
Right. But I consider that skating too, and not to cut you off, because I've had to rehab parts of my body, by learning how to stretch, at a later age in my 40s, because I never stretched as a young kid. And that's the thing, that skate parks, if they would have kept those skate parks around in the 70s, maybe we could have got a little bit more kind of insight of being athletic and proper, because a lot of us were just, I'm going to try that. I'm going to throw myself off like, an 8-foot ledge, and not knowing how to fall.
It could have evolved into something more, a little more scientific, in a good way.
Yeah, because stuntmen know how to fall.
Yep.
Right.
Gymnasts know how to fall. Boxers know how to fall. Karate people, martial arts have been around, wrestling, everything. It's all been around. And the thing with me and skateboarding is what I said about yoga is that I've realized that now when I get hurt, if I can't do my yoga poses, I don't step on my skateboard.
Gotcha. That's a good way to judge it.
Yeah, it's a
good way to
better.
judge it.
Yeah. Because it's
like
like
the responsibility of taking care of your body has to go in with this sport too, and see it as a sport.
Because everything is a point, and this is the thought process of every point in your body. So if your elbow's hurt, you're leaning weird, or if your neck's weird, you're leaning, and you have to have your balance, because you have 100+ pounds on a rolling vehicle.
So the skateboarding led you into music?
Music was first.
Okay, music was first.
Yeah.
So you had one huge journey here with that. You have your name and everything. So, what came first? Was it just straight up the punk hardcore scene?
Well, no. My father played tenor sax, and he was in the military, in the Army. He was a PT instructor. So they had kind of an Army bass band that they started there, and then they turned it into a top 40 band, which would rehearse in my living room in Wilmington, Delaware. So
you yelled at your dad to stop playing with the other way around.
So my dad got me into it. He basically, I'm his shadow. I mean, he played bass, drums, guitar, knew what he wanted to do, but he never wanted to record. I think he went into the studio once, and he never wanted to be a star or be out there.
He just wanted to be himself, express himself. He's a real artist.
Yeah, and so when I picked up punk rock, that's when he was like, Chuck, I you did all these cover gigs, you know all this rock and roll, you know blues, you know play out jazz, and now you want this really minimal music, this aggressive music. I don't understand it. And then when I started listening to reggae, he was like, what? Because most people are trained.
Fathom it, find it accessible.
Yeah, because it's like how can you make the line from classical music to jazz or to blues into punk unless you have people like the Clash to go, oh, I now hear 30 years later what blues is in punk rock.
So, rewinding, the first band was what that you were in?
The first band that I was in personally was a band called New Jersey's Finest with a bunch of friends of mine from up here.
Okay.
But my first band that I started and got my name in Philadelphia was McRad, which I still have now.
Which is still this is the new album?
Oh, well, this is the first two records. This is Dominant Force and Absence of Sanity. And the artwork here is done by Mark Ferris, is a guy from New Jersey. And inside here is almost every show that we've played in the early 80s. So there's stuff with HR when he first came to Philly with his own solo project, and there's stuff with the FUs. And so this is kind of like the background of what gave me my personality, which my parents did not understand at all. Because we were all about fanzines. Shepard Fairey's involved in all this because he had a fanzine, you know.
And McRad still, you never went away. You've been playing for what, almost 30 years?
Yeah, 30 plus years. We just celebrated that. And for that 30-year celebration, I gave away PRS guitars for the whole year. So every show, I donated a guitar. These guitars are like this line is about $700. So
they're actually making money in that world. No, I know. So
well, yeah, I mean, I made a living. You know, I'm able to support myself, and there's ups and downs, but yes.
So McRad, I'm trying to go through your brief history here. Mm-hmm. Did that lead you to what next was? What was it, Bad Brains? Did you?
Well, from McRad, I played in a bunch of local bands in Philly, Anthrophobia, Scram, a bunch of different people that would ask me to jam out. And then I got myself into the reggae scene. But the next big band that I started to work with was Underdog. Because we did a show with them, McRad opening up for Underdog at CB's. Mm-hmm. And then Russ came up to me because he's a skater also, and we knew each other. And he was like, hey, at some point I think we're going to need a guitar player. So, I got in the van, and then we recorded Vanishing Point and toured, and then from then on, I started playing in other bands, and Bad Brains came along, and Urge Overkill, Disposable Heroes of Hypocrisy, The Goats, which are from Philly, and then just different jazz people from Sun Ra, Jamaluddin Takuma, just all these different people around.
So the ride of the Bad Brains that was just nominated for a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Yeah. I don't think they got in this round. And you were part of how long? How long was your era with them? Because I know the lineup changed.
My time with them, like professionally, was we did 6 months of touring, and we did about 3 months of rehearsal because we were a band together without a lead singer, and then we found Israel, who recorded Rise, which is on Epic Records. And then we went out and we did a bunch of tours with that. And then we got back together 13 years after that tour, which ended in '94, to do an MTV special. You know what I mean? So they've randomly called me back in to help out. And then our last show that I did with Daryl was for Shepard Fairey's company. Like Bad Brains did a collaboration with Obey. And so Dave Grohl played guitar, Moby played guitar.
Wow, Moby, Dave Grohl.
Yeah.
That's why I like bigger names.
Yeah. So then Daryl was on bass, and Pete from Scream was the singer, and then I played drums. And so
Dave Grohl was the drummer of Scream.
Totally.
Yeah,
so, but all of us between Philly, DC, New York, Boston. I mean, we all had to stay connected. You know what I mean? Because if you were either in the club scene, which is kind of like the house techno weird scene, or you were either in the punk scene. The rock scene was completely like what hip hop is today. That was rock and roll back then. You know what I mean? So we had to kind of line up because
you weren't hanging out with Styx and REO Speedwagon.
No, I mean I would go to those shows and mix.
I go to those shows too.
I went to 2 days ago. I went to see REO Speedwagon, Styx, and Dan Felder. Yeah, but anyway, yeah.
Top that one, Chuck.
I know. That's crazy.
It was like Radio Rock of my.
Oh,
my
totally,
past.
yeah. Because I mean, early we're all MTV kids. I mean, you
exactly,
had, you know,
exactly.
they played
20
great.
minutes and no bangers ball.
Totally.
It's like, I'm not saying that relevant or you're not, but I just realized it's like nostalgia for the '80s crowd.
Totally.
In a way,
Yeah.
reliving that. You know.
Yeah.
So how did I remember like someone sent me a link one time. I was like, "There you are with Pearl Jam."
Yeah.
That's a giant like. Talk about going like mainstream, but like, how did that happen?
Yeah. Did you get cocaine on glass?
Cocaine on glass? No. I didn't really party through any of all of that stuff. Like even like getting into other bands because I started to I had my own personal problems with like asthma and different things, so I didn't have kind of the wind to just throw my body around because I wanted to skate all the time. Even if I was, I'd get in from a gig at 2 in the morning and I'd go forward. So basically while I was on tour with Urge Overkill, we got to tour with, open up for Pearl Jam. And I've noticed that all those dudes were skaters and snowboarders, because Urge, they were just kind of rock guys from Chicago. I mean, they just weren't athletic. I mean, they're great guys. But when our first day into the Pearl Jam, like a 5,000-seat arena, and they're just like cruising around on longboards and skateboards, and I'm like, holy shit, like these guys are cool. They're
just like regular people.
Yeah. So we were in Vegas, and they just, hey, we're going to do a Green River tribute. And David Abraziz, the drummer at that time, was like, hey, do you want to play, 2 songs? And I'll play the other 2 songs. I'm like, yeah, no problem. And so they ended up, Pearl Jam would record their shows live, every one of them, to ADAT. At that point, before they started using digital stuff. And then they just decided to put it out as like a little 45 for all their fans. They had a fan club. So if you were in their fan club, you would get all the special releases. So that's how that kind of happened. Just a fluke of a situation. Me at the right time and not being a total dweeb.
And you were, I was rewind, so you were, that came from Urge Overkill.
Yeah, because I was playing bass with them on tour. They had just released Saturation. And they recorded the record in Philadelphia with the Butcher Brothers at Studio 4.
Was that the Girl You'll Be a Woman Soon?
That was a song that was on
Pulp Fiction. Right?
It was a Pulp Fiction movie thing, and I guess it was like it's stuff that Nash kind of wanted to do, but we had that happen on that tour because Nash and Chrissie Hynde became friends, and so Chrissie had some connections in LA and got Nash and those guys into the big I forget what the movie was. It was a Wayne's World. The last one with the big stretch, like at the end, Nash gets out of the big stretch like Volkswagen, and then from there that led into the other situation.
We might go a little over. Can I ask some of the questions?
Okay, no problem. Yeah.
Okay, these are some questions from Princeton Creed. I'm going to test your cognitive skills because you have to be cogent with this.
Oh my gosh.
I'll go for the poignant one once. This is from all he wanted to be identified as poor self-image. Being a skateboarder and a goth punk rocker. How do you deal with the fact when some people might look at you with just disapproval and disdain? How did you handle that?
I learned that from, I guess, kind of being black, but then also being black and being in a predominantly black neighborhood and having green eyes and kids calling me warlock and not even black people not even understanding me. And then I had to go and understand myself through my family, which I'm mixed. There's white blood in me. I have American Indian. There's all different things. So that was one thing, adjusting to just like regular Americans, because I didn't travel far as a youth. But once an American grabs something aggressive like punk rock or skateboarding, people don't understand it. So I would purposely go to high school. Yeah, I would purposely go to high school with like pins all over me, and they were like, they stopped calling me the N-word. They stopped calling me everything because they're like, what's going on? You know what I mean? Because at that point, Iggy Pop was like one of the biggest stars, and and he's so powerful. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, and everyone in America knew him. Gigi Allen wasn't even heard of at that time. Yeah. Iggy was like the guy that was going. Like, yeah, it's amazing. He's still crazy and going. So it's how I learned how to adjust, was just kind of take it in stride, and some things hurt, but then all of a sudden you get a Minor Threat record, and you're like, oh, these people are cool. Like Ian's singing to us, all the freaks. You know what I mean? And there's other bands. I had a big support of the New York crew, like guys from Murphy's Law. You know what I mean? All those people. Agnostic Front. Those guys are really cool. They were like, Philly and New York didn't get along that much within the punk rock scene because New York kids grew up a lot harder than Philly kids at that time. Because most of the kids in the Lower East Side, it wasn't built up. So those kids had to they were living on the street. Maybe Harley wasn't, but some of those guys. I mean, John Joseph and some of those they lived hard. So when I went to New York and I met those guys reminded me of the guys that would protect us in Philly. I don't want to call them thugs, but they were just like neighborhood dudes that you couldn't go off your block in Philly. You know, it was block to block when I grew up as a kid. You know what I mean?
Somewhat a mercenary world.
Yeah, yeah. And so, you know, that's what I.
We're running out, I'll let you take it home. We're running out of time. Do you want to?
Okay.
You want to do one more?
I gotta go one more.
Okay. Okay. How does your values translate to your music?
My values translate to my music probably through positive energy, even though I've made stupid mistakes. You know what I mean? But I felt like my talent comes from energy because I don't know how to read music, and everything is audible. You know what I mean? It's like how if I hear it, if I see it, or if I see someone playing something. You know what I mean? So I kind of utilize it that way. You know what I mean? It's like it's a tool that I can use it makes me write songs. It makes me take challenges. But if I don't exercise that tool, I can't take any challenges, which means like picking up the guitar, playing, or getting around different musicians to learn, or touring and learning, or over investing in the gear and not learning what it is to like not have money because you just spent $2,000 on the guitar that's only worth 5,000. No, excuse me, 2,000 that's only worth 500 when you go to trade it in. So those things have helped me, you know, because I just didn't want to be a regular musician. I just wanted to be kind of open to sound, and that's a cost. That's an investment. You know what I mean?
A populist. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Well, Chuck, thank you so much for coming.
Okay, no problem.
My friend.
Thank
that
you
is
for
a
having
real
me.
scar if you're getting that.
Woo! God.
And before you go, is there anything you want to plug? The website, band, whatever?
Well, one thing I do want to plug is thank you for PRS Guitars. They've been supporting me. They gave me an ad on the back of Guitar Player magazine this year, which I'm really happy about, which promotes FDR Skate Park. This is a company that I'm working with called Aces and Eights, and this is the first skateboard shop in Jamaica called Skateboard Palace.
Oh, wow.
And so we did a collab with them and Sasha Jenkins of Mass Appeal at Afropunk Sunday and Don McCluskey in Bristol. So I mean, I don't want to promote my sites. I just want to be like, hey,
promote shamelessly.
No, just
get
get
that energy, and you're breaking into Jamaica.
This is your sign off.
Yeah, just get into music. You know what I mean?
Adam, we'll have to get Chuck back here, right? Because he's got too much more to tell.
And I don't think I could beat up the MMA fighter we had again.
Brilliant.
Yeah, but brilliant. But I think I could maybe. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I could take.
Now's the time to get him while you have that bad knee.
Well, thank you, Chuck, and
you're welcome. Thank you.
We'll be right back.